The Titanic may not have been the fastest or the most robust ship of its time, and surprisingly, its sinking isn't considered the greatest maritime tragedy in history. However, it became an icon, especially for sinking during its maiden voyage after colliding with an iceberg in the vast North Atlantic, while various famous personalities were on board. Today, we'll explore some of the mysteries and theories surrounding this legendary vessel. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's dive in. The switch of the Titanic for the Olympic. A controversial theory suggests that the Titanic was actually swapped with the Olympic, its sister ship that had already sustained damage. Proponents of this theory, including British Robin Gardner, believe that the White Star Line orchestrated a name swap to sink the Olympic, which had collided with the cruiser HMS Hogg in September 1911. Since the Olympic was uninsured, the company allegedly devised an audacious plan to exchange the identities of the ships, send the Olympic on the Titanic's maiden voyage, sink it in a safe location, rescue the passengers, and thus collect £750,000 in insurance, covering the Olympic's losses and securing a new ship for operations between Europe and the United States. Advocates of this theory point to various pieces of evidence suggesting the sinking was premeditated, such as the fact that millionaire J.P. Morgan, a partner of White Star Line, withdrew from boarding the ship just a day before the voyage. However, this theory has numerous flaws. Thousands of workers were involved in the construction and maintenance of the vessels, making a secret swap extremely difficult. Moreover, structural differences between the ships would be easily recognizable to the crew, and any detailed inspection could expose the deception, jeopardizing the plan. The missing binoculars. One of the most intriguing mysteries surrounding the Titanic involves a small key that could have completely changed the ship's fate. This key locked the cabinet where the binoculars, intended for use in the ship's highest observation position known as the crow's nest, were stored. On the eve of departure, David Blair, the second officer, was replaced at the last minute and, in the rush, took the key with him. Without the binoculars, the lookouts on the Titanic, including Fred Fett, were forced to rely solely on their eyesight to detect obstacles. Fett later testified at an inquiry that he would have spotted the iceberg in time to avoid it if he had had access to the binoculars. That fateful night, the sea was exceptionally calm, with no waves to help highlight the iceberg's presence, making the task even more challenging. The key that locked the binoculars was auctioned off in August 2007 with an opening bid of £50,000. The ignored warnings. On the night of the sinking, the Titanic received numerous warnings about icebergs, yet Captain Edward Smith chose to maintain maximum speed. The reasons for ignoring or underestimating these alerts remain a mystery. Reports indicate that at 11:40 p.m., just 20 minutes before the lookout's shift ended, Fred Fett sounded the crow's nest bell 3 times, indicating danger ahead, and alerted via phone about an iceberg straight ahead. Tests suggest that ships like the Titanic required about 37 seconds to maneuver and change direction, which equates to nearly 450 meters, the estimated distance from the iceberg when the alarm was raised. Additionally, a second-class survivor reported that the captain was in the lounge and had delegated the watch to someone else. Despite this, official accounts state that he was awakened in his cabin after the collision and decided, heroically, to go down with the ship. The role of the SS Californian. The SS Californian was relatively close to the Titanic on the night of the disaster, but did not respond to the distress signals. The debate over the Californian's actual proximity and the reasons for its lack of response continues. There are records indicating that the freighter was less than 10 minutes away from the Titanic and that its captain, Lord, had warned via radio about the presence of an ice field with icebergs in a 90-mile area. That fateful night, the Californian decided to stop at 10 p.m., fearing a collision with icebergs, while the Titanic maintained its speed. The freighter found itself amid an ice field, making it difficult to receive distress calls, and the Californian's radio operator had already gone to bed. The enigma of the third ship. In addition to the Californian, some researchers believe a third ship, possibly the Samson, was nearby on the night of the sinking. If this is true, the Samson's coordinates indicate it was about 10 miles from the Titanic when the ship began to sink. A crew member, Hendrik Bergen-Nias, reported that when the Titanic fired its distress rockets, the Samson did not come to its aid because it was engaged in illegal seal hunting and interpreted the signals as warnings for other ships, not realizing it was a call for help. The supermoon researchers from Texas State University hypothesized that a rare supermoon may have contributed to the Titanic disaster. In January 1912, this supermoon coincided with extremely high tides, which may have dislodged icebergs into more dangerous navigation areas. This astronomical phenomenon occurred a day after the Earth's perihelion, when our planet was closest to the Sun, causing icebergs that would normally be in shallow waters to be pushed into routes that intersected with the Titanic. A shooting star or emergency signals? The night of the sinking was filled with strange reports. The crew of the SS Californian saw lights on the horizon and also spotted shooting stars during their observations. The officer on duty, who tried to alert the captain, failed to connect the lights to what could have been a distress signal. What could have been a chance to rescue many passengers ended up being ignored, leading to a tragic outcome. The insufficient lifeboat numbers. One of the great mysteries of the Titanic is why there were lifeboats for only a third of the crew. With 20 lifeboats available, capable of accommodating about 1,178 people, there were actually over 2,220 on board. Theoretically, the Titanic could have transported up to 3,327 people. During the sinking, many lifeboats departed only half-filled, either due to fears of capsizing or the tradition of prioritizing women and children. If the lifeboats had been utilized properly, more lives could have been saved. The lingering question is whether the lack of lifeboats was a result of economic decisions or an excessive confidence in the ship's safety. Premonitions. Several survivor accounts indicate that they experienced strange encounters or coincidences before the sinking, leading many to believe that premonitions about the disaster occurred. One of the most notable cases involves a Scottish young woman named Jess Sear, who, in her deathbed delirium, spoke of a great ship sinking and mentioned a man named Wally. This man was, in fact, Wallace Harley, the bandleader of the Titanic, who played until the final moments to try to calm the passengers. These elements of mystery and premonition made the Titanic narrative even more compelling. The compartmentalized construction. The Titanic was a landmark in naval engineering, being the first ship designed with watertight compartments. This innovation was intended to ensure that if one compartment filled with water, it wouldn't spread to others. However, engineers faced the challenge of routing pipes and electrical cables through the ship, which led to compartments being built with walls only up to a certain point. No one anticipated that an impact with an iceberg could be so devastating. The tear in the hull was so extensive that it allowed water to flood the ship rapidly, making it impossible to contain. The Blue Ribbon Prize. One reason the Titanic maintained its maximum speed even in iceberg-laden waters was the pressure to win the Blue Ribbon Prize. Established in 1839, this prize was awarded to ships that completed the fastest transatlantic crossings. The Titanic was a strong contender for this honor, as large and fast ships were considered true engineering marvels at the time. The fierce competition for this recognition may have contributed to the risky decision to maintain speed despite the known dangers ahead. The influence of weather conditions. Some experts suggest that unusual weather conditions on the night of the sinking created optical illusions that hindered iceberg detection. A phenomenon known as fata morgana may have confused the lookouts, making icebergs appear farther away or even invisible. This effect occurs when light is refracted by layers of warm air over cold water, creating a mirage that obscures the horizon. According to studies by researchers, this phenomenon may have contributed to the tragedy, hiding the true location of the danger. Telegraph failures. Poor communication between the Titanic's telegraphs and coastal stations played a significant role in the tragedy. Although messages about the presence of icebergs were received, their importance and urgency may not have been adequately understood. Furthermore, the Titanic's radio operator was overwhelmed with a flood of passenger messages, likely causing crucial alerts to be ignored. The captain of the Californian reported via telegram the presence of icebergs, but this vital information may have been lost in the confusion, contributing to the lack of timely action. Trauma. Survivor accounts from the Titanic are varied and often contradictory. This occurs because human memory can fail, especially in extreme stress situations. Many survivors faced deep trauma after the sinking, and some struggled to cope with life after the disaster. For example, 10 survivors took their own lives, including Frederick Fett, the lookout who alerted the captain about the iceberg. Another tragic case was Annie Robinson, a crew member who, after surviving a previous sinking, jumped off a ship almost docked in Boston, triggered by the sound of a horn that reminded her of the Titanic. Well, that's it for today. I'll be signing off here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I'll see you next time.